Every day we are greeted with the news of the latest rising numbers of COVID-19 cases. We hear about the spiraling effects of the country's economy on businesses and families. We learn of the rising numbers of people who did not recover from the virus. There is, however, another alarming alert. It is the widespread toll of the pandemic on our sense of stability, our emotional well-being, and our mental health. The truth of the matter is, people of color dealt with stresses before the coronavirus, but now more than ever, we may need to ask for help. Listen in on a necessary conversation as women share their personal mental health battles. We invite you to listen to the Salon Talk, a necessary conversation. Ladies, I have a secret. I've learned quite a few things during the pandemic, but I have a secret that none of you have even picked up on since we've been here talking. So this is one thing that when we're in the pandemic since March, we've had all kind of things going on, and we've had the cities shut down except for essentials. So I didn't go to the shops that I normally go to, didn't get any pedicures, manicures, anything like that. And so one day a young lady came into my office and I noticed something that she had on. I looked at her nails and I said, "Now your nails really look good. Did you do that yourself?" She said, "Girl, please. These are press-ons." I'm like, okay then. So you know what I did? I went to CVS and got some press-ons. This is my secret for today. Did you know?
No idea.
Thank you. My secret.
So you learn how to file them down and everything?
Yes. And when I want to, my nails to look on point,
That's what you do.
press.
I know where to go in case of an emergency. Right?
So that's my secret for today.
I saw a nail shop, a young lady who shifted to that. So you know how, she does nails, but I saw her shift to that and really promote her product through Facebook during that time. And so I thought that was very creative. Before, for each business, they were encouraging businesses to say, hey, this is your time to do something different and really, So that's cool. So she actually created her own brand of those.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I've seen that.
I need a number.
Yes.
I've seen that.
I
A
think
couple of
I've-
people have done that.
Yeah.
They've created their own brand.
I need a number. Because I just really don't want to go back to, the every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks.
Oh, stop. You
I
sold
don't.
now? Okay.
I
All
don't.
right.
So I just, when I have something special like this, then I'm good to go.
Totally agree. To follow up, like mine is what I learned. I don't need all that. And there is so much freedom. I love the freedom of not having the appointments to get my nails done, to get this done, to get that done. I just love what it opened up in my schedule. And I'm like, I used to be like, oh, I hate my hands without nails. They look so manly. But now I'm like, they not too bad. I can do this. And I'm saving like a little bit of money. I'm cool. That's good. So, yeah.
No, ma'am. I need my pedicure. I need my manicure. That's my self-care time. That's my time when I go to the salon to sit down and I just have my moment. So in quarantine, I was struggling with these nails. However, my clients were very creative. I learned how to get on Zoom and offer consultations to my hair clients and teach them and walk them through how to take care of their hair at home. And so they were like struggling, especially those ones who don't know how to do hair on their own. They was like, what am I gonna do without you? And I'm like, you can figure it out. You'll be all right. But I was doing like Zoom consultations and FaceTimes with my clients, walking them through how to detangle their hair, how to straighten their hair, blow it out at home. Like it got real for a second, but Now they're excited that I'm back open. I don't know why we weren't considered essential, because I think we are very essential. However, we learned to make do.
Right. They was about to go to war, baby, about that.
Yes. But we are back. We are back. And yes, I learned a couple secrets too. But yeah. Anybody else learn anything?
I learned how to smother different types of food. I've been talking to my mom. Like, COVID-19 pounds is real. I mean, it's very real. But I've been smothering chicken and smothered shrimp. Yes, that is really good. I do not, but I have what do you call those confection? Yes. And I just pop that bad boy in the oven, 350, set it and forget it.
Yes. YouTube University and Pinterest are my best friends out of quarantine. I tried so many different new recipes and just different things at home that I could do. Yeah, so I can appreciate the whole smothering concept.
Yes, me and my mom had got really close. Cause I was like, I want to learn how to smother.
That was a good goal.
Yeah.
For all of you all that put tutorials on YouTube, I appreciate it.
Of course.
Because I did go to YouTube for tutorials on a lot of things. I have natural hair. I'm braided right now, but to learn just how to fix it up a little bit differently.
Yes.
And so those were very educational, very educational. How to arch my own eyebrows, do that myself. So I learned how to do a whole lot of stuff for myself.
I watched a few tutorials with my daughter who, out of this, she decided she wanted to go natural.
Yeah.
And I had only relaxed her hair out of my own lack of, he was like, I'm tired of combing hair, but she wanted to go, so we would sit and watch those tutorials as well. And so so we wound up getting her the little hairband things. So she likes the whole pull your hair up and have the little or whatever. And so I have actually watched her kind of blossom during this thing, because she went from just kind of, having her hair any kind of way to now just really caring about it and getting up every day. And she was experiencing like acne issues for the last few years, and now pulling her hair up off her face, it started to really clear her face up and stuff. And so, but it started with watching those with her and kind of showing her how to do her own hair, so I could kind of back up or whatever, and just being proud of watching her do her own things. So.
Well, that's exciting. Well, I am appreciative of you ladies being open and sharing your secrets, because I'm going to steal some of those secrets and take them home with me.
And we appreciate you for opening up your doors to this beautiful salon for us to have our salon talk.
Well, I'm appreciative of you ladies, because I feel like I can be transparent and be open with you guys, because I know that quarantine was good to us, but sometimes it was bad, just to be truthful, especially for me. I know that it was quite anxiety inducing at times, right? And so in those moments, I felt like, who can I talk to? Who can I go to, right? I know that I'm a therapist, but we need support too, right? But I was just thinking how sometimes those stigmas that come along with feeling that anxiety, it makes you feel almost embarrassed to share your truths and open up about what you're walking through and what you're going through. So have any of you ever experienced that? I know that I did during quarantine and during the pandemic. Experience those moments where you feel like, I just can't open up and I can't share and say what's really happening with me because of what other people are going to think about me.
We were hitting on the whole stigma of needing, therapy earlier.
Right.
And that came to mind where just what you said, the shame that comes along with it, and something that it wasn't necessarily inside of quarantine, but it was just prior to quarantine, where I had an experience. And so I wound up having a conversation with a friend of mine, just sharing that the reason it took me so long to share with someone was because the shame was attached to it.
Right.
And the other thing was that I noticed, I was watching like we all watch like the Red Table.
Red table.
Yeah. So they had a topic one time. I don't know what the topic was, but anyway, they got to talking about anxiety, and they had guests on there.
Yes.
And it was funny how it was like 6 or 7 people at the table, and each one of them had anxiety.
Every single one.
Yes.
Yes.
And so I remember thinking that, not to discredit any of it, but the fact that the word depression can be thrown around so easily,
Right.
and now the word anxiety can be thrown around so easily. Like everybody got it.
Right.
Everybody got it. Then it kind of takes, to me, it feels like it takes some weight or some validity away from it. If every time you just feel sad, you call it depression,
Sure.
or people just take it for granted.
Right.
And then those who maybe experience it, maybe, for the first time, or that's a real thing, you say, well, now I don't want to say that that's how I feel, because I just don't want anybody to think that I'm jumping on the bandwagon, when maybe you really are experiencing it, but you don't really understand, So it's kind of like, is it taken for granted,
But I think you just said something. You said that because we don't understand. I think that's one of the biggest stigmas with mental health in the Black community, is that we lack the understanding of what depression, anxiety, bipolar, all of those things are. So we discount them, or we take it to our peers or our family, or even to the church, and we say, this is what I'm struggling with, and it's like, you'll be all right, you'll be fine, or we over spiritualize it and just write it off as it's just a spirit or something, as you got to go work on yourself, and that's just what it is, instead of reaching out and asking for help. It's because we lack that understanding, and there's a lack of trust with health providers in our community. That is a biggest struggle. Yeah.
Because we don't see a lot of people of color
Right.
historically, especially when I was coming along, and as y'all said, I'm a baby boomer. So in my generation, we did not see us.
Right.
And you don't feel comfortable going to someone that don't look like you, that don't understand where you're coming from, that haven't lived in the same type of community and all of that. So I think that's some of it, that there weren't people that look like us.
I think right now that Black women are really underserved as it comes to health anyway, whether it's physical or mental health. I know right now everybody's talking about, when you have a baby, make sure you have an advocate there with you if you're a Black woman in the hospital, because you don't have anybody to advocate when you're feeling that pain. And Black women are dying at higher rates than any other race right now because of childbirth. I feel like it's the same way with mental health. We struggle with having an advocate for us to say and pinpoint those emotions. To your point, if I'm feeling just sad, it's not necessarily depression, there's a difference. However, if it's isolating, you're closing yourself in, if you feel the walls closing in sometimes on you, then we can put a label to it, but we're scared of those labels. If I go to the doctor, they're going to give me pills, and they're going to give me a diagnosis that's going to follow me for the rest of my life. So I don't want that.
And then I think we also get scared because it goes against the narrative of everything that we've taught ourselves that we should be.
Yes.
We should have all of the answers. We should be superwoman.
Yes.
We should be able to handle everything. We should be able to process or do this. And at the end of the day, at the center of it, you're like, no, I can't. I'm broken. I can't really even function past this room or past what I'm going through right now. And so it's coming against, to speak out and say, yes, I do have this issue. I do deal with depression. I do deal with anxiety. It's speaking against this huge, great picture that everybody has made women, Black women,
Sure.
out to be. And I think we have to be okay with embracing the other side of us, that there is a delicate side, there is a gentle side, there is a side of us that's broken, and we need to seek help from professionals and also spiritual to get healing and to get in a full, healthy place.
So are you saying, I'm not every woman? It's not all in me? Anything you want, one baby? I do it naturally?
Yeah, I'm saying all that, because I can't be every woman.
Right,
I think us trying to embody that has really, really worn us out. And it's also put us up on a pedestal that's not achievable.
Mm-hmm. Because we've had to be put in those roles. How many times have I watched my grandmother growing up be grieving the loss of her son, be struggling in her marriage, trying to raise a small kid, which was me, sit at the table, prepare dinner, be crying at the table, get up from the table, wipe her face, and put on her work clothes and still get it done.
Wait,
Because
and
that's what they
state
told us to do.
everything's okay.
I'm okay.
I'm okay.
Yeah, nothing's
We
wrong
can't
with me.
even
Right.
identify or say, I'm hurting.
Yes.
I'm okay.
It's like I'm okay is death. It could lead you to where you just drown in your own thoughts, your own misery, your surroundings. You're constantly on the go, and then when you look in the mirror, you don't even recognize yourself. You know, it's just it's hard. It hurts your heart.
And who embedded in us that's what you have to go do is you have to go and do that in secret. You have to go hide. And even as you say that, like I'm reflecting on, you know, the moments where like I live across the street, across a freeway from a hospital, and so my children and I and my mom, we use a tracker on our phone so we can see where everybody is all the time. And so I'd have my moments, and then I would literally tell them I'll be back, and I would turn my tracker off, and I would go across the freeway and sit in the parking lot at the hospital and just cry and just deal with my own emotions and my own frustrations. But I didn't want them, because that'll be the moment my mama looks and sees where am I at, and then she's like, why are you at the hospital, So I would feel like I would have to hide from them, and I would go over there and I would get it all out. And then I would just go back home, like, all is well, like you just can't, show it to them,
But one thing I appreciate about the younger generation, because I don't believe our generation had it, but my children will call me out. At the beginning of the pandemic, when I was dealing with anxiety, the onset of anxiety, my children called me out. They were like, you're off. Something is not right. And whatever you're dealing with, you either need to talk it out, you need to talk to us about it, talk to somebody about it, because you are not yourself. And so I can appreciate that about the younger generation, because they will pull out of you, where I think my generation, we seen it, kind of like you mentioned with your grandmother, we seen it, but we really didn't know how to address it. We didn't know how to confront it. And this generation that we're raising, they're blatant. They're like,
They don't have filters.
They don't. Which in some ways can get on your last nerve. But in other situations, you can appreciate it, because it made me look, I'm like, oh, because as Black women, we are so awesome in being cover girls. We can cover we think we can cover things up. But our kids is like, yo, you're not covering this up. It's off. What we need to do?
I read a quote that said, it's a shame that some of us are a public success and then a private failure, because we're a mess inside, we're broken, but we have to put on these masks and have to put on these capes, and we have to get it done. Self-care really didn't become a thing until, if you think about it, a couple of years ago. That's the movement that self-care became. Baby boomer age, y'all didn't talk about self-care. What's self-care? It's like you felt bad for taking care of yourself or putting yourself first versus your family. Now it's highly pushed. What do they say when you get on a plane, though? And they giving you those details about when you saving yourself with that mask. Yes, right. Then the child. And it's like we've never thought of it in that perspective, because we over spiritualize it. It's, if I pray about it, it'll be all right. Yes, prayer is amazing. But do we know that God put clinicians in the earth for a reason? He gave us nurses, he gave us doctors, he gave us therapists, right? But we don't look at it like that. We look at it as, I don't want nobody in my business.
But I believe what God has given nurses, clinicians, doctors, that is a gift.
Right.
Everybody can't function it. I don't have that gift. It's a gift that God has given you all. And so I think if we change our mindset and look at it as if these people are ministering with their gift that God gave them, and it's an extension of his presence in our life, go get that. Yeah. Go get that help.
And there's nothing wrong with it.
It's nothing wrong with it.
Can I ask you, ladies, have you ever felt like those moments when
Was pressuring you, or you feel like the walls were closing in? What did the crisis feel like to you? What did your crisis feel like in that moment? Did it feel like you were suffocating? Did it feel like you did not have somebody that you could go to as a support? Did you feel like this is the end, I want to die? Or, like you've had those suicidal thoughts? What did your crisis feel like to you?
All of the above. I felt like I was in a very visible but unreachable place. Even though I didn't express it, and I don't know that others seen it. But I felt like I'm drowning and ain't nobody trying to help.
Destiny, what did yours feel like?
It just felt like I was all alone.
Yeah.
Growing up alone, I'm the only child, but I really felt alone. Like I felt like nobody understood me. Then my brain would get the best of me, my thoughts. Being by myself just made it worse. But then again, I didn't want to be around anybody. I went to church, I smiled, I did what was ever asked of me from my parents, from my church family, from my family. But for me personally, I just didn't have it.
Right.
And I didn't want to be here
Yeah.
to continue.
That's very real.
Yeah.
That's real. And people think we black women, we got it, but we have those thoughts too. And does that make us a bad person? Absolutely not.
And that's in addition to the shame, I can recall like all of those same emotions, but also this deep disappointment in myself because I did have this expectation of myself, like no, not me, or I can have. How did I get here? Why am I here? Or surely I should have been over this by now. Why is this dark cloud following me? I'm better than that. I'm bigger than that. So I was disappointed in myself, and then the shame where you don't share with anybody, so you don't even have anyone to encourage you because you won't share, and then you already talking down to yourself, making it worse because you're so disappointed.
Yes.
And I can recall the day, I'm going to say, a breakthrough where I finally shared with an unexpected friend. Wouldn't even been somebody that I'd have called on a regular, but I called to share something else with them and wound up having that conversation, and literally feeling the weight drop off of me, and finally hearing someone to lift me up and say, Rhonda, you're not alone. You're not the only one. You don't have to feel bad about it. So these are, true feelings. And I can literally remember like sitting in my vehicle when I called them, like in the garage, just screaming and crying and bawling at the top of my lungs, and they were there on the other end of the line listening, to all this. And when I got done, I was just like, oh, the freedom you get from finally just sharing and releasing that and finding out you're not alone, and you don't have to be embarrassed. You don't have to be, you don't have to feel like you're by yourself when you experience that.
Have you guys heard of the term functional alcoholic?
Yes.
Okay, so I called myself a functional depressaholic at one point because I had just walked through a really rough patch by losing my best friend, and grief is very real, right? But when I walked through that grief, it was so real to the point where I was in denial almost, because I had to be on for everybody else. I had to be the therapist for everybody else, so I couldn't really go through and process my own thing. But I was a functional depressaholic. I would go home, I would cry, I would be sad, I would not want to talk. And one day my husband was like, I think you might need to go talk to somebody yourself. And I was like, I think you're right. Something is wrong. So having that person that sees you for who you are and sees you at your core and say, something's not right. Yeah, we got to fix this, or we got to work towards it, because life is real and life happens and we have no control over that, right? And trusting God is what we do. However, we have to trust God to allow the people in our lives to see us for who we are. We can't isolate and put ourselves in a box. We have to be transparent about those moments. So once I realized that I had to be the therapist to go get a therapist, it was everything for me.
But the key thing that you said is you have to allow.
Yes.
But what about those that keep it bottled in and will not open up or won't? So I don't know, how do you reach that sister that need help?
You can't make people, especially when it comes to mental health, if it's something bigger like a mental illness, when someone has been diagnosed or undiagnosed, but you can see the signs. You cannot make people go to the hospital, get treatment, right? But you can keep being in their corner and keep advocating for them to go get the help and support, even offering to take them. Hey, I'll go with you to this appointment. I don't necessarily have to sit in there with you, but I want to hold your hand and walk you through that. Because I think that right now, more than ever, we've talked about the pandemic and we've talked about the effects of it. But just like for some of us, it's very, very real, to the point where we already had anxiety going into it. It's magnified now because my job is at stake. You know, I've lost a loved one. I don't know what's going to happen after this. So now I think more than ever, we need to grab those people by the hand. We have a responsibility in ministry and in life to say, you know what, I got a resource for you, girl. Let me hook you up with this person that I know. She'll be good for you, or he'll be good for you to help walk you through. And being willing to be that support.
I think part of that accountability is also sharing.
Yes.
Again, back to sharing with others that they're not alone. I think Salon and I kind of joked about this when we first met, but where I've always believed that we say the cliche all the time that we're so proud to say, girl, you don't look like what you've been through.
Yeah.
Or you done been through the fire. You don't smell it like the smoke. So we take pride in that.
Yeah.
And so anybody, just a stranger walking in here right now would be like, oh, well, she got it going on. She got it going on. They cannot see your story because you don't look like it. And so part of our other obligation is to, even though you don't look like that, you still have to turn around and share that story, even for the purpose in being here. We still have to share that story because part of helping the next woman is to let her know that maybe I don't look like I've been through what you've been through, but I have. And then to gain that trust from her, that if she knows you've been there and she sees you made it through, that maybe will help her to trust you to want to come out of that and then say, well, what did you do? And maybe I could follow those same lines and I can do what you did, and I'm not as ashamed to share my story, and maybe we can come out of this thing together.
So what you're also saying is to help walk somebody through the steps that or the process that it took for you. Like it wasn't just, okay, I just woke up the next day and whoo, everything was hunky-dory, mighty fine. But the process, sharing the process.
Too, I hurt too. I laid there too. I was in a ball too. I screamed too.
That's right.
I had cry eyes for that, all that. Just so they know that it ain't just you, it's a process, but you're gonna experience.
And also to help them identify, because I know for me, I was like, I can't be depressed. I can't have anxiety. There's nothing wrong with me. I haven't been diagnosed. I don't have But I didn't even realize that there is such thing as called situational depression. I had no idea of that. And so it wasn't nothing that you could be diagnosed with or anything that you came through, through your lineage. It's a situation, and that's what I went through. And so even helping people realize, because I was fussing at myself like, shake it off. You should not feel this way. You have no right to feel this way. Get up. But all that pep talk I was doing, I couldn't shake it. What do you exactly? Life too good, girl. You
got a husband,
you got
a job.
Your kids is doing what you trained them to do, and I'm just like, okay, you're right. But then every time I try to get up, I'm like trying to get up, holding just wait. And so I couldn't get up. And so just helping people understand, like, you're not crazy. It is real. It's called situational depression, and this is how you walk them through the steps. And then once some things, I believe use wisdom. When it's too big for me, instead of watching both of us go down or continuing to watch your ship go down, I'm going to give you a card of someone that is trained in this. And then I will even get on the phone. I'll pay for your first appointment if you cannot afford it. I'll do whatever I can do to get you the help that I was given.
I can say, being a millennial.
You're a millennial.
Hey.
Millennial is a mindset. So
Oh my, come on.
it is a mindset. It's a mindset. But go ahead, millennial.
I can say, I was institutionalized because I tried to commit suicide. And I went to Topeka to go to an institution there. And it was scary for me. I never thought I would be in that type of place. My mom went through something very, very similar. She has bipolar. So, and I started having the same effects around the time she started having the same effects. And when I went into the institution, it surprised me how many people under 30 were in there with me. It was so many people. Some were disabled, some just stresses from their jobs, like so many different stories. But it helped me realize that I am not alone in this, especially in my generation, and that it's okay to get help and it's okay to be surrounded by people just like you. Because it was very alarming. I did not expect that. I thought I was going to be the youngest person in the room.
Sis, I appreciate you for being transparent in that moment. 'Cause that's real. And we needed to hear that, and we needed to know that the things that we feel are valid, that we're going through some of the same things, the same characteristics. But you're right. You're not alone. We're not alone in this. And I think that we all have a responsibility that when somebody asks us, how are you doing, that we own our truths. And if we're not doing okay, instead of saying, I'm blessed and highly favored, I'm good, that we say, I'm not okay, and I do need help. That's the first step, I think, from our takeaway today, is that we need to own and take away what is not happening for us and own that it's not okay.
That's true. That is so true.
About grieving your friend.
Yes.
And I will also add that even too, I have been to therapy a couple times in the last handful of years. But it too was because my husband died 7 years ago. And so that's what led me to therapy and grieving and bereavement and all of that. But I will say that visiting a therapist will also, or can also, bring out other things in you. You may think that you're going for one thing, and then you walk out finding out, I have these other things that, that are an issue, with me. And so, so initially going to therapy was obviously based on, grieving or whatever, but I finally decided to go because I realized that it wasn't just the fact that that my husband had died and that he was gone, and now I got this 4-year-old and I got this 9-year-old and now I have to raise them by myself. But I literally couldn't function on a whole nother level. It wasn't just sadness or whatever, but I was just chaotic in the brain. And so it took me to go to therapy to y'all gonna find the connection with this, but it took me to go to therapy to finally be diagnosed with something that I had joked about myself for years. And everybody knew that Rhonda was a little perfectionist, and Rhonda was very anal, and Rhonda always has to have things right, and she always makes things perfect. Only for me to go to therapy and be diagnosed as having obsessive compulsive disorder. And so that is where that came from. That is right. And so in that, it wasn't just realizing that I was suffering from depression and some other things. It was finding out that I can no longer, because of the shift in my life and my household, I could no longer function the way that I was used to functioning. And so I was that person who was used to, the remote goes in the same place on the table. The placemats have to be perpendicular to the line in the middle of the table, and that was just me. I had to clean the house before I left. You didn't clean if the dishes were. The towel got to be folded, going across the sink. All of that stuff just completely. But then when your help is gone. And you already sad and you already having issues, I don't have time to fix stuff. So then that magnified in my world, and it really threw me just all out of whack. And so I say that to say that a lot came out from just going to get therapy, thinking one thing, and then you discover something else, about yourself. Now I maximize on what some may look like as a weakness. I use it as a strength, and I carried it on into other avenues in my life, but that's where a lot of that generated from.
A lot of our struggles come from childhood. And that's where I start with a lot of my clients when I'm doing therapy with them. We start at the root, because what have we been taught? What have we learned? What has been passed down? What generational curses have been given to us that we have not broken and we're carrying with us through each life cycle, because we're unconsciously carrying other people's burdens and other people's issues and other people's traumas. Other people's traumas have been given to us, right? And so when our parents brought us into this world, we inherited all of their other stuff that came with it. So a lot of times I start at the root in therapy with my clients, and we dig deep and we go back to the childhood. Yeah.
I think it's just so necessary because you don't know what to fix if you don't know how it got broken.
Right.
And like you said, being birthed into it, I remember having a conversation with my father, and I was like, look, y'all brought me into this mess. And that's what I told him. I was like, I didn't ask to be brought into this. Y'all brought me into this mess. And so now I need to know it all so I can deal with it, so my children won't have to deal with it. And so it's necessary because you deal with it. You, like you said, yours was OCDC. Mine was rejection. I was like totally, like, always felt, and people wouldn't believe that about me, but even as a little kid, just felt rejected, cast aside constantly. And so then when I started going through my depression, I was telling someone, I was like, when my son graduated, I had lost my job. My son graduated. He was going off to school to do what we had trained him to do. And the only thing that was intact that shouldn't have been intact during that time was my relationship with my husband. That was the only strong point. And he prayed me through some things, encouraged me to get some help. But I was grieving my son, thinking that him going away was going to be him rejecting me. How would he accept me? They rejected me at my job because they fired me. So everything was just like, and that was my identity. Everything, being his mother was my identity, being my daughter, my identity. So it just felt like everything was being stripped away from me. And I did not know how to process any of it.
Those self-sabotaging behaviors and thoughts are the first indicator that something is wrong. When we start looking at ourselves in a very negative, distrustful way, not trusting our own judgment, talking bad to ourselves, doing things, inflicting self-harm on us, that's the first sign that either anxiety is creeping in or you're in a depressed mood, like you're getting to that place. When we start sabotaging ourselves, right? So that I think that's the first indication, and that's first sign is rejection. Yeah.
In my generation and those that are even a little older than me, you said you had to go to your mom to talk to her about certain things. That's one thing. Our parents, they did not talk about things that they were going through. You better not ask because they didn't talk about it. They didn't talk about their feelings. I grew up in a one-parent home that had to be Wonder Woman because had to do everything, take care of the house, be the breadwinner, the whole nine, and did an awesome job of it with 6 of us. I don't know how, but she made quite a few sacrifices. But if you looking at the other side of her, she did not share too much. And so it would be so rewarding for me if she were here, because she died young at my age. My mother was gone. So, but there's so many questions that I would want to ask about her upbringing and her relationship with maybe her mother and all of that. I know what I saw, but I was kind of young. And when you're younger, even young adults, you just don't pick up on certain things until you get a little bit more mature and you kind of know what you're looking at. But I would just love to have a conversation, as we are having what we call a necessary conversation. Right. I would love to have one of those. I don't know if she would have said anything, but I would love to have those necessary conversations, because I know that she was a person that did what she had to do, and she kept everything in. We didn't see a whole lot. She made sure she was a very timely person, which, that's where I got it from. Right. Very timely. If you said you were going to be somewhere at a certain time, she expected you to be there. And whatever you said you were going to do, she expected you to do that. And she was committed to ministry. So whatever that she did, she was committed and was there. So those were some of the outward things that, were, I would say, positives. Yes. But the other things like you raised 6 kids by yourself. So what were, some of the struggles? And we all had opportunity to go to college. And if you looked at us, you would never know that we were raised by a single parent. Because when you go out that door, this is back in the day when you ironed. Everything had to be ironed. Yes, everything. You had to look a certain way. Otherwise, you weren't going out the house. And so that's the kind of upbringing. But I can remember just with when my children were smaller, dealing with grade school or teenage years, and then ministry and trying to, all boys, and then and trying to manage all that and plus working full time. And I remember one day just getting in the car and just driving, and didn't know where was I going. And then, the thought came, where are you going? I know where I was going. Or either I forgot where I was going. That was the heaviness. And it wasn't like someone was doing, it's just life.
Yes.
Life as a mother, life as a minister's wife, life as I was a teacher at the time. It's just life. Life can get heavy. But who do you talk to? At that time, there was nobody that I felt that could understand. So we just had to deal with it. I did what I saw. You suck it up, and you go, and you deal with it.
And keep moving. Yeah, what you saw your mom do, and kind of to Joy, you hit on that, just, about things being passed to you, and then you turn around and you only pass down what you were taught, or if you didn't get that out, just breaking generational curses. If you didn't break it with you, then you're going to turn around and pass that on, later on. And kind of when you referenced your mother, it made me think about my own, even just sitting here just sharing my story, reflecting back then, how even to this day I can just remember just my mom just being extremely even to that, she's just extremely joyful. She's just a joking character at all times. I mean, always joyful. But hearing her cry with the door closed in her room. And so now as I sit here saying, I'm turning off my tracker from her, you have me going across the highway to sit in the parking lot to cry. Because that's what I saw you do, because you didn't do that in front of us. You kept it together. And then it even makes me think of passing those things down, to my children, where if I don't break that, then I'll have, and now I can reflect upon thinking, okay, I'll have that child who, when I say what's wrong, nothing. What's wrong? Nothing. And this is just resonating, with me right now, and even having a conversation with a friend a couple years ago in my frustration about why I was so overwhelmed, and they were telling me, like, Rhonda, you have to allow your children to help you. You have to allow your children to help me. But I wouldn't allow my children to help me because I like things done my way. And so if you think of what my issue is, So when you like things, it's you can teach a child to do things, but then you just say, okay, well, I'd rather just do it myself. And it could be something as small as folding a towel, where that may not be a big thing to somebody, but to me, I need the corners to touch, because I have a condition that I'm working on, that everything doesn't have to be like that. But she also said, Rhonda, if you are always correcting your children for every little thing they do, that towel wasn't folded neat enough, they didn't put their bed sheets on neat enough, because of what you're going to pass that on to them, and you're going to have children who feel like they never did anything right, when really they did. It's just your expectations were so high that you turned around and and you put something in, you hurt them with what you were dealing with.
But you know what? The thing is that like your mom, like my grandmother, like your mom, they all had their own struggles, and they came from that same generation of sweeping it under the rug. So I think the takeaway from today is we can no longer sweep things under the rug. We can no longer turn a blind eye to the things that we are walking through. We are walking through very real situations, especially in these times. So the biggest thing is first, we got to change our mindset. We got to change the way we view things, how we view ourselves, how we view each other. We also have to make sure that when we're not okay, we tell you, girl, I'm not okay, and I need some help. And I think the last thing is that we have to be comfortable enough to ask for help and then follow up and go get the help. Stay consistent with getting that help. If we don't stay consistent and do the work, faith without works is dead. If we're not willing to do that work, how are we going to see what's going to come of it, right? So I appreciate you, ladies. Thank you so much.
Good conversation.
Great conversation. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So much.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I love